what is it, Sydney Marathon? I can't even keep up with you, Tez. You're just a running machine, you and Nico. All right, guys. So like I said, get your questions ready. We're going to go live on 30 seconds. And I've got a bunch of questions that have been collated here that we can answer live. And if you want to ask anything, we can. So let's get started. Hello, Christine. Hello, Sarah. Hey, Jan. I hope you guys are fantastic. All right, let's get stuck into it. Here we go. Question 1. Will I still lose fat if I increase my calories? Okay, so this is a really, really good question. This is going to come down to whether or not your calories are at a deficit level or not on an average basis. Okay, now the way you want to think about this is at the top level, do you lose weight or not? That comes down to your calories, right? Really, just that's it. Do you lose fat or not? That's where it comes down to both your calories and your macros. So if you are in a calorie deficit and you are eating enough protein and doing some resistance training, you're putting yourself in what I'd call the Goldilocks zone to be able to lose body fat. The reason is that you are running out of petrol. And when you run out of petrol, your body has to keep going and it finds the petrol somewhere. And so where do you want it to come from? You want it to come from this stuff. Now, if you are in a calorie deficit, but you are not eating enough protein and you are not doing resistance training, you will break down this stuff additional. This is not what you want, because this is going to have long-term detractions from your strength. Your body composition is going to start to go to shit. So here's the thing. You could easily go and find, just Google search a calorie calculator. Most women are going to be in maintenance calories at about 1,800 to 2,000 calories. Most men at about 2,400 to 2,600 calories. So if you bump that down a little bit by 300 to 500 calories, you will almost certainly be in a deficit. Now, if you're not losing weight, okay, if you're not losing weight, the more I get into this coaching thing, the more I realize that it's become so freaking complicated, the amount we talk about metabolisms and all these genetics and all these different things. Look, if you're not losing weight, it's because you're not in a calorie deficit. And it's really, really hard because you're sitting there going, but I am. It's hard to say this to a person, but if you're not losing weight, it's because you're not in a calorie deficit. And if you think you are, it's because you're not tracking. You're making mistakes in your tracking. And I am understanding this firsthand right now. Right now, I'm understanding this as I'm going through a cut. Okay. I'm going to tell you guys, if we were to just like forget everything and just track our calories and do it as religiously as we can, you're going to find out some real surprises about the food you're eating. And I know that all of you know that, but it's really, really hard when a lot of us work at home, we work in the kitchen, we walk past the kitchen, we go and have a little snack. It's in the snacking, right? We're all picking up these little calories, we're finishing our kids' dinners, and I do the exact same thing. And it's only now that I'm extremely attentive to what I'm eating that I'm actually starting to lose body fat, that I don't have a lot to lose. So will you still lose fat if you increase your calories? Well, it depends. If you're at 1,000 calories and you bring them up to 1,300 calories, but you're still in a deficit, yes, you would expect to still lose fat, just not at the same rate as if you're eating 1,000 calories, as an example. Okay, guys, if you want to ask any questions, you can bang them down into the comments and I will answer them. Have you got any practical strategies on fitting in your 10,000 steps a day? Okay, so the first thing I think that a lot of people do wrong is they go from doing 1,000 steps a day and they try to go up to 10,000 steps a day in one foul swoop. And it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work because your body's going to be so freaking sore. If you're not used to doing it, you're not going to have the time to fit it in. And so I think the better way to approach this is, rather than doing this massive chunk, is to try to accumulate the steps in maybe blocks of 1,000 over the course of a day. Me personally, it's been a long time since I've been on a streak of 10,000 steps a day, okay? But as part of this cut, I am definitely doing it right now. I'm about 20 days into 1,000 steps, 10,000 steps rather. What I'm personally doing is getting up 40 minutes early, and I'm doing them in the morning. So I'm going to bed early and I'm getting up early and I'm doing them in the morning. So me personally, I'm in Canada at the moment. I love rugby league. All of the rugby league shows are on late at night, way too late for me, but they're all replayed in the morning. And I go and literally get on a treadmill or walk around in circles in my house watching replays of NRL 360. That's what I personally do. And it works for me. For you, you might not have that luxury of getting up a little bit earlier. If that's the case, I think the best way you can do this is try to break your day up and chunk it in 2,000 to 3,000 sets of 2,000 to 3,000 through the day. But don't go from 2,000 to 10,000 in one foul swoop and expect that there's not going to be consequences of that, right? You're going to be really, really sore if you've been immobile for a long period of time. All right. Hello, Ronnie. Lovely to have your company in here. And who else have we got? All right. So Bonnie is asking, how come we use pedometer app and not health app on iPhone to count steps? Good question, Bonnie. And the answer to this is that you can totally do that if you would prefer to do it. Totally do it. If you would prefer to use the health app, that's no problems at all. I like the pedometer app simply because it has a very nice widget that goes, see this at the moment? Can you see it on my phone? It's upside down at the moment. That says like 8,487 steps or something like that. I like having that number constantly viewing. Now, I'm sure you can do the same thing on the different health apps that you're using. It's, to be honest, like tracking steps is not a very difficult science. They're all pretty accurate. Right. So, for example, if you prefer to use an Android app, the only thing you want to avoid against doing is connecting it to MyFitnessPal. If you connect it to MyFitnessPal, what's going to happen is it's going to take the calories that it thinks that you're burning and add them back in to your total daily nutrition count. That's what you want to avoid. G'day, Michelle. G'day, Caroline. G'day, Cara. I hope you're good. We are live in both Instagram and our client Facebook groups as well. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question, Bonnie. The basic answer is you can use whatever you want. Don't overcomplicate it, mate. If you prefer to use the health app, do it. No problems at all. Just don't sync it with MyFitnessPal. All right, so Michelle says, is whey casein protein okay? So good question, Michelle. I'm going to clarify your question a little bit. Whey and casein protein are two different types of protein that both come from cow's milk. Okay? They are the two types of protein that come from cow's milk. So when the milk is getting processed, it splits into these two, what are called fractions. One is whey, a type of protein, and one is casein, a type of protein. They're both very good. Now, what the suggested main difference between the two is that whey is quite quickly digested and absorbed, whereas casein is a lot slower release protein. It's digested slower. So what the gym bros, let's say, or the people in the know suggest is that if you would like to have a constant source of protein, amino acids going through your body, then it could be a good idea to have casein protein before you go to sleep and whey protein perhaps in the morning or just as you've worked out. So what that will do is give you the quick source of amino acids after the workouts to replenish. And then whilst you're sleeping, you could have the casein protein for a longer duration delivery of amino acids. Does the average individual need to get to that level of granularity? I don't think so. Personally, I don't take casein. It doesn't taste as nice as whey, in my opinion. And I just don't see the benefits of having two different types of protein when I can just hit it with one source. But it's a really, really good question. And some people might, for example, be more tolerable than a certain one than the other. And that's completely fine as well. Now, Will So, lovely to have your company in here, legend. What are your thoughts on protein water to help get to your protein target? Dude, I think it's really good. I actually do. I think it's good because number one, it's convenient. That's the first reason. Number two, it's hydrating. The one downside is it's going to be way more expensive than having it as a powdered form. Anytime you buy a pre-mixed drink or a water, it's going to be more expensive than having it as the powder. Think about when you buy a big ass tub of whey protein isolate, you're getting it as the most condensed form. If you're buying it in a premix, kind of like buying a premixed drink, it's obviously going to be a little bit more expensive. If it was me personally, I have no need for that level of convenience. I would personally take the extra 1 minute to put it into a cup and then shake it. Having said that, if you're on the run and you like to have a couple of them in your ute, for example, no problems at all. If it was me, the thing that I would personally be doing, if you're choosing the type of protein water that is best for you, I'm going to be choosing the one that is based mainly on whey protein isolate. Okay, so this is going to be what's called a clear whey. It's had most of the lactose removed from it, so it's typically clear and fruity in flavor. I'm personally not going to buy a collagen-based protein, and a lot of the waters are collagen-based proteins. I've gone into many times why that would be. Personally, I just want the highest value protein. I want it as cheaply as I can get it, and I want it in a convenient source. And for me, protein powder is the best way to do that. But having said that, if you want the convenience of not having to mix it up, I would go for a whey protein isolate water where possible. Does that make sense, Adzi? Let me know in the comments if that makes sense, brother. And if you're just tuning into this, g'day Kerry, Sandy, Craig, how are you guys? You can ask any question that you want. If you're on Instagram, you can ask any question you want and I will answer you in the comments. It can be anything to do with fitness, mindset, whatever you've got, and I'll answer it. Hey, Timmy, how are you, brother? All right, let's get to the next question. Is the back arch necessary when doing chest exercises and shoulder exercises on the bench? All right, so what we're talking about here is, for those of you that are watching on live, what we're talking about is if we're doing a bench press, do I need to kind of tuck my shoulders right in and then like squeeze my chest up like you see a lot of people doing? Okay, I do it, but not to the extreme way that some people do it. For example, you'll notice that a lot of power lifters, what they'll do is they'll really super arch their back. Why are they doing that? Well, the primary reason is that if you're in a powerlifting meet and you only have to get your bar to the chest to the bar, then the higher your chest is up, the less distance you're going to have to go, right? So you could call it a little bit of cheating advantage. Me personally, I don't really think that there's that massive need to arch your back. But what I do definitely like to do when I'm preparing for my own bench press is just tuck my shoulder blades just under a little bit. And what that does, and you can even see it if you're watching on live, if I'm tucking my shoulder blades just under my body a little bit and taking my shoulders back, it naturally brings the chest up so that when I squeeze my chest, I can really focus on contracting the pecs, which is why I'm trying to do a bench press. Okay, so that's how I would go about it. All right, so what are the best workouts or types of workouts if I want my kids to start getting physically fit? All right, so this is going to depend on what age your kids are. So I think a lot of people think that my kids, they've heard this idea that their kids shouldn't lift weights too young. I don't believe that at all, because your 4-year-old is not sitting down to do a 100-kilo barbell squat. I think it's when I see our clients training with their kids, it is magic to me. I think it's fantastic because you are, rather than telling them to go and do exercise while you sit down, you're doing it with them. I think this is amazing. So is there an age which is too young? Definitely not. Now, where could you start? I think the best place to start for most people would be taking your kids on a walk, right? So over the course of the weekend, it's a long weekend here in Canada. Of course, your boy's still working. I would personally we did a big ass bushwalk and hike, taking my kids. Let's go. I'll pick them up every now and then, but I want them to do the exercise as well. I want them to see that this is the lifestyle that we obey. And so getting them into walking, I think, is the best place. Or cycling, doing some form of cardio. That's amazing. But then what are the best types of workouts to get your kids started? You could, for example, get them a really small set of dumbbells, and I think that's completely fine. You could get them a set of resistance bands, and I think that's a really good idea. Me personally, my dad started me with a personal trainer when I was about 10 years old. And the reason that he did that was because in my dad's basic idea, he was like, if my son wants to play competitive footy, he's got to be fit and avoid injury. And that's probably the reason why I'm sitting in front of you guys doing this stuff, is because my dad gave me that skill of training from a very young age. And I think that it's a big advantage in life if you can give your kids training in resistance and strength training at a very young age. I can remember being at the local Woy Leagues Club. I've talked about this before, and we had the little hydraulic turns. There was no like pin loaded weights. It was just really safe hydraulic stuff. And I think it's great. And you can get all that stuff with a good workout at home, to be fair. Good morning, Pascal. Good morning, Nico. And Adzi says, perfect. Thanks, mate. The Ute fridge is exactly where I was going to have it. Yeah, exactly. Look, let's talk about eating on the run for busy blokes and women that are on the roll. Here's the thing, man. You got to make this as simple as you bloody can. It's all good for me, right? And I live and work at home, and so I can just walk up and microwave and fridge. If you're on the road, Adzi, you've got to have something that's ready to go. It's got to be convenient for you. So here is what I would do. When I worked at an office, Ads, this was how I went about my lunch. Okay. I bought a coffee from the cafe downstairs every morning, and I made sure that it was a skim milk or a black coffee, right? That's what I do every morning. And then I would have a protein bar or a packet of beef jerky at mid-morning. So getting my protein in. For lunch every day, basically all I did was grabbed a big ass Tupperware container, smashed a whole bunch of leaves in it, a whole bunch of avocado, tomato, and then any type of grilled meat. It could be chicken, fish, beef, whatever it was the night before. I just cooked enough for the next day, and I didn't really care about warming it up. And if I was really stuck and I didn't have meat, or I went out for dinner the night before, I would just throw in 2 cans of tuna or some sardines, and boom. It was literally the same thing every day for 10 years. And it works. The thing is, man, you got to keep this really, really simple. Wash it down with a can of Diet Coke, and Bob's your uncle. We're ready to rock and roll, guys. Pascal says, thanks for busting the myth about kids working out. My youngest is 13 and he wants to go to the gym like me. By the way, Pascal, on that note as well, I'll go a step further and say, I think personally, as soon as my kids want it, I'm going to give them creatine as well. If like I'm talking from like 6 or 7 years old, absolutely, mate. It is a natural substance that the evidence has stacked and stacked and stacked. There is no problems with giving them these things. I mean, when you think about all the different things that a kid can get themselves into danger with, like mental. Oh, your kid does gym? That's terrible for him. Fucking please. All right. So Brendo says, g'day, legend. G'day, legend. What's going on? What's your thoughts on fermented greens powders? Okay. So the marketing behind greens powders, Brendo, is like insanely good, right? There's something like millions upon billions of dollars that is spent on green powders. Me personally, I would just take a multivitamin personally. That's what I would do. I don't take green powders. But the idea isn't bad behind green powders. They're effectively a chance for you to get in some vitamins and minerals. So what's the one Athletic Greens, for example, that you see all over North America? It's pushed by so many of the big influencers here. And to be honest, I would just recommend taking a multivitamin personally. So if you're not familiar with our supplementation protocol, if you're listening to this for the first time, I'm going to tell you there's a few supplements that you need. Okay. Number one is creatine monohydrate. I don't care if you are 20 years old or you are 80 years old, you should be taking creatine monohydrate. Number two, you should be probably taking a multivitamin, and a multivitamin simply for the fact that it will cover any micronutrient deficiencies. If you just happen to be low in a certain micronutrient, this is just one way to be an insurance policy. And if you piss it out, it's not the biggest deal because they're not very expensive. Number three, I would be taking a whey protein isolate for most people. The reason is because a lot of people struggle to get to a high protein intake without going crazily over their calories. And number four, I have just recently added in myself a omega-3 fish oil tablet. Now, the reason I've done that really more recently is because I've just started to kind of see that the evidence is stacking beyond just 50-50 in saying that fish oil is fantastic. Now, why am I doing this specifically? Fish oil, I'm going to tell you, is because for me, I have a tendency to move towards low fat when I'm in a deficit versus low carb. So when you think about it, our BBA model works like this. We decide our calories, we decide our protein intake. They're the only two things that we say are important, right? And then we backfill with the rest of the calories. If you're in Better Body Academy, you will be very, very familiar with that system. Now, you'll have a tendency to either, with the rest of your calories, gravitate to higher fat or higher carb. Me personally, I'd prefer higher carb, mostly because it's going to give me the energy for my training sessions, particularly when I'm in a calorie deficit. But as I was tracking in MyFitnessPal recently, I was realizing that because of being in a deficit, my fats were really quite low. And that's an issue for two reasons. Number one, all your hormones are built on fat. That's the number one reason. Number two, unless you're eating some type of fish almost once a day or once every second day, you're going to be missing out on the two key omega fats, which are called EPA and DHA. These are really starting to really shine in terms of everything from joint mobility to anti-heart disease, anti-cancer. And the thing that I really am pretty worried about myself, for no other reason than I probably, like you guys, I scare myself into different things. I'm really scared of losing my brain function, to be honest. And what we do know is that omega-3 fish oils are highly correlated with better brain function, starting at memory. And my memory is seemingly fizzling out quickly. So for me personally, I think it's time to add the omega-3s to that list. So four supplements that we recommend. All right, guys, you can ask any other questions that you want into the comments. Girls, what's going on? Anything from you? All right, let's keep going. No problems, Brendo. What are the best exercise? Oh, I did that one. How do you figure out your why? Oh, Jesus Christ, this is a question, isn't it? How do you figure out your why? Okay. The way that I would answer this question, so what is your why? Your why is the reason that you get up and do the things that you do in the morning. And I think it's completely natural. And I remember being in the situation where I was waking up at 35, going to myself like, what am I getting up for? What am I fucking? There's got to be more to life than this. I was lucky with what happened. COVID kicked my ass. It's basically what happened, and moved me to a position where I found my why of helping people really quite quickly. But I think here's a good way to think about it. If you don't know your purpose, give me a silent head nod. Raise your hand if you do not know your purpose in life. If you do not know your purpose in life, here is a good piece of advice that I got. If you don't know your purpose, All you need to focus on for the moment is to live on purpose. I'll say it again. If you don't know your purpose in life, and if you're 50 years old and you don't know your purpose, don't stress about it. It's common. I don't know my purpose. All you need to focus on right now is to live on purpose. So what does that mean? That means plan to do things. Plan to do a little bit of a fitness challenge for yourself. Plan to have a bit of time off the alcohol. Plan to spend more time with your friends. Plan to spend more time in the sun. Plan to do a trip. Plan to dedicate your work. Plan to read a book. Whatever it is for you, if you really just don't know what you want to do, that's okay. You live on purpose. You decide, okay, for the period that I don't know exactly what I want to do in my life and why I'm doing it, I'm going to live intentionally. And I think that's a really, really good mantra. Bonnie says, figuring out my why keeps coming over time as I progress through BBA. Here's the reason that that works, Bonnie, is because when you start, right, most people have a lack of self-belief in themselves, right? They've slowly started to fall away over the years while they prioritize their career and everything else. And then you reach this point where you decide, you know what? I'm going to put myself up there. I'm going to prioritize myself again. And when you do that, Bonnie, at the start, you're like, what am I capable of? And at the start, you're really trying to rebuild yourself, aren't you? But then maybe you might lose the first 5 kilos and you're like, wow. And then maybe you do a PB squat and you're like, wait a second. And then things start to build and you get into momentum. And because you get into momentum, you feel more motivated. When you feel more motivated, all of a sudden your why starts to shift, right? And you start to learn that you're capable of more. And what ends up happening, Bonnie, is you realize that you've been playing too small for too long. That's what happens. You realize that, like I did, that you're wasting your fucking life trying to please other people. You're not taking risks because you're too scared of the judgment of people that you don't even want to be like. Crazy, right? Crazy. Vicky says, morning, my why has changed in 6 months. It was all superficial at the start. It's about being healthy for my brain health and bone health and mental health. Exactly. One thing that's, oh my God, it's just always escaped me, Vic, is, and like I get it. I get why we get into this routine, but we work all of our life to put ourselves into a position where we can retire. And then we retire and our body is so broken that we can't do anything with our retirement. Like, this just fucking blows my mind that this happens year after year after year to people. Pascal says, thanks, mate. Great advice. Live life on purpose. Having this dilemma right now with what I want to do with my work and life and profession, doing BBA has made me think outside the box. Dude, this is exactly right, Pask, because what happens, this is the way I think about it, Pask. At the bottom level, right, you have to have your physical body functional, right? And when your physical body is functional, I'm not talking about being an athlete. I mean, physical body is in shape, right? Now you regain some energy back internal, right? Now you can actually leverage that energy into doing things. So when you improve physically, I'm not trying to talk about become a fitness fucking influencer. I'm talking about just being able to go for a 10-kilometer walk, right? To be able to take your clothes off at the beach and go for a swim without fit, right? So now you start to open up new levels of your mindset, right? So what happens then is your confidence starts to build, your self-esteem comes back, your self-image starts to improve. You're no longer looking at yourself in the mirror and shitbagging yourself, right? Now your whole world starts to change because you got your fitness right, you got your mental health improved. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it starts to improve. Now what happens? Your life starts to change. Your life starts to change because you start thinking a different way and surrounding yourself with different people. And when you start to feed different information in, you get different stuff out. Does that make sense? So when you don't know what to do, you just lean into your health and fitness and watch the rest come up. That's my personal opinion. Take it or leave it if you like it. Great advice, Mary says. Yeah, and you're doing that, Mary. And you're a different case, Mary. You're the type of person that you're your own worst enemy because you're so hard on yourself, right? You're so hard on yourself. So for you, the journey is more about, okay, I want to get strong, right? If you keep looking at yourself and throwing daggers at yourself in the mirror, Mary, you will never change. Your biggest barrier is you've got to change your self-talk, right? And you've started to do that. And now that you've started to change that self-talk, you've started becoming the type of person that shows up whether they're feeling like it or not. Example A right here, your life starts to change. Does this make sense? All right, last few questions. Is 20 minutes of exercising still effective? Oh, it is very effective, right? It's very effective. Not only for building consistency, but there's actually no real difference between doing 20 minutes of exercise 5 days a week and doing 1 day of exercise of an hour and a half. I think it's actually better to spread your workouts over the course of a week, because what that does is it conditions you to show up constantly and build consistency without needing to worry about being crazily intense about it. I think, like, if I could just be really transparent with you guys, most weeks I train 3 days a week, maybe a fourth. People think, oh, you must train like 7 days a week. I don't train 7 days a week. And the reason I don't train 7 days a week is not only do I not like training 7 days a week, it's not actually beneficial. For me, it's not beneficial. I need time to let my body recover. So breaking it up, I never, and I'm just going to say this, guys, straight up, I never stay in the gym longer than about 50 minutes. Never. Never. Why? It's because after about 45 minutes, I get bored and I love the gym. So for me, it's 3 to 4 45-minute workouts. Get in, do the thing, go back to my life. Do that over 20 years and watch what happens to your body, right? It's not about the length of your sessions. These are called exercise snacks. If you can do exercise snacks over the course of the day, this has actually been shown to be really beneficial for helping you manage your blood glucose and your energy levels as well. Okay, what do we got? I'm not even going to read this question about six packs because I don't feel it's the right vibe to do that. Last thing, how do I figure out my next fitness goal after I've achieved my current one? That is a good question. If you are in our BBA Elite program, Troy did a live on this last week, which I think was a really, really good live. I think he did it over the weekend. And he talked about why having a new goal to focus on is so important. I know what it's like to put all your effort into hitting a goal. That goal might be a marathon, or it might be a 10K run, or it might be a PB deadlift, or it might be to get a new job, or it might be to a savings goal or a holiday, and you get there and you feel that momentary sense of pleasure, and then it almost disappears, which is evidence that getting the thing doesn't make you happy. It does not make you happy. What you become in the process, that is actually what makes you happy. This is the reason I know that for me, retirement is not going to look like sitting on a beach doing fuck all. I will be bored shitless after the first hour. The goal is the process. And when you work out that doing the thing is likely the thing that actually makes it all worthwhile, I think that's where we're at. So coming back to the question, how do I figure out my next fitness goal? Well, I think it's just simple. You ask yourself the question, if I did that, well, what could I do next? And I don't necessarily know if just choosing what someone else did is the right thing for you. For example, you might see everyone wanting to run a half marathon around you and you're like, I don't want to run a fucking half marathon. That gives me zero motivation at all. But maybe you want to enter a Tough Mudder. Or maybe you want to go and volunteer at a kids camp. I don't know. But I always think the most successful people, certainly in our program, are the ones that have these 3 to 4 month incremental goals where they're always working towards, which really just keeps them interested. They've got their big hairy goal. The big hairy goal might be to lose 20 kilos or run a marathon, but then they've got these little small goals along the way that keep them motivated and keep them interested. Totally agree with this one. All right, guys, I'm going to rip around and just check there's no other questions. All right, guys, that's a bit of a wrap for this morning. Some really good questions asked by you guys. I love this. Hey, Louie, how are you, mate? Lovely to have you in here, brother. I love when you turn up for these, Louie. Guys, as always, if you are in Better Body Academy and you want to ask anything, just please don't sit on it, right? We are here to coach you. And one of the most frustrating things for me is when you sit on your questions and I can't have a chance to ask them or answer them. So if you're not already aware, we run 3 calls on both men's side and women's side each week. Those calls are coming up in the next 2 to 3 days. Come and speak to us. Come and ask some questions. Come and get the butt kicked. And I will see you on one of those coaching calls over the next few days, guys. Peace out. Hopefully this was a good episode. We'll catch you soon. Yeah.